Hello everyone and welcome to another News Coolum video. This is the second part of my road trip out to Zion National Park in the Bolt EV. Again, most of this footage has never been published. Some of it has been, but I compiled it into a single video so that you have a better understanding of how the road trip went, some of the things that I had to deal with or overcome. And again, since that video and since that trip, about 2 to 3, depending on where you're coming from, DC fast chargers have been installed or about to be put online along that route, making the trip much easier in a car like the Bolt EV. But still, you'll see that there are some things to overcome. On the return trip, again, Las Vegas worked out well as a stopping point for fast charging, but as you'll see in this video, I don't recommend leaving Las Vegas heading back with anything less than about 85% battery, and even that would be pushing it in the Bolt EV. With the Baker charger that's going online soon, you could leave Las Vegas with as little as 50 to 55% battery and still be relatively safe going with the flow of traffic with a plan to stop in Baker. But anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, please like, and if you can subscribe, it helps the channel out a lot, and I'll continue to make these videos about my longer trips in the Bolt EV, checking on the infrastructure and showing what is and isn't possible right now. And all right.
Well, here we are, guys, in lovely St. George, Utah. Um, it's a little bit brighter now. I can actually show the area. I am going to go up to Zion, but it looks like there's going to be a little bit of moisture and things like that. So I was going to go up to Angel's Landing, but I'm not actually going to go across the chains or anything up there. But just get a short hike in and see the scenery. But this is what I was talking about, the Best Westerns over here. They installed 2 Tesla destination chargers and a Clipper Creek. So this is supposed to be 40 amp, but it looked like it was only charging at 5 to 6 kilowatts. So I don't know what that was about. But either way, it was still stable. Didn't require activation, and it's convenient. They're very helpful, and it looks like I said, there are like 4 Best Westerns here. That's like they all have the EV charging. So anyway, it's very helpful. The Bolt's fully charged, and I'm gonna head up there. Like I said, it's about an hour up to Zion, and I'm just going to see if I can get a hike around and maybe a level 2 charge there as well while I'm hiking. And then I'll head back. So back to Vegas. Anyway, thank you for joining me in this adventure.
So almost immediately after I left St. George, it started raining. Now, these are the slower roads after I'd gotten off of Highway 15, just sort of heading into a back road heading into Zion National Park. But seeing the storm ahead of me, I was actually worried that it would get much worse by the time I got in there. But the temperatures were actually still in the 40s at this point, so I wasn't worried about any sort of rain or even ice on the road. As you'll see coming up, there was also a bit of road construction. Crews were still out working on things. I think maybe mudslides. The roads themselves seemed fine. And then also, as we get closer and we head into town, I didn't show video of it, but there's a visitor center before you head into Zion proper, and I didn't check these out, but supposedly there are also level 2 chargers at the front of the park. I elected to not stop at them just because all of the trails that I wanted to hike in Zion were actually inside the park, and so it wouldn't have been worth it to stop at the outskirts of the park and charge up on a level 2. So I'm not sure that those are going to be the most useful level 2 chargers for somebody if they are traveling to Zion, because it's not exactly a place that you would stop for hours and hours. Now, when I get into Zion here, where I end up stopping is at a lodge, which is a nice location at a bunch of trailheads inside the park. And the lodge has a number of facilities, including a gift shop. It has actual rooms to stay in. It's a location where you can pick up the tram. So having level 2 chargers there makes a lot more sense to me, because it's a place where people are going to be stopping for hours and possibly staying overnight.
Here we are. Woo. The charger is on, does not require an activation. It's charging, and beautiful Zion. Peaks all surrounding us. It's pretty cool. So I'll see what I can do in terms of getting some pictures and hiking around. Might not be able to get to Angel's Landing, or at least not even want to hike on it. But yeah, they're saying 12:30 p.m. would be a full charge. Let's just see here. And it's well, charging. Yeah, look, it's charging about 5-6 kilowatts. No, the full 7. So yeah, this is a 30 amp, 32 amp charger, at least up to the bolts maximum. So all right, well, that's pretty cool. Gives me about 2.5 hours to hike around, though I might take more time than that, might take less, but I'll see what kind of trouble I can get into.
So I decided to head out to the trails and just sort of explore around. Given this entire trip was just over a 2-day weekend, I didn't have a whole lot of time to hike the park, but I was doing this more just to see, what I wanted to come back and visit later, what I liked, what I didn't like. Luckily, with the rains, there were a lot of waterfalls, and the rocks being wet were also, it's a very, very pretty sight. I hiked up toward Angel's Landing. There are a few different sites along the way. You had a huge spanning view of the valley, looking across all of the foliage and the rocks, and actually with the storm, it created a really nice scenic hike, looking down into the valley there at Zion, up Walter's Wiggles, as they say. It was a pretty steep hike, but luckily it wasn't raining. We had deer guarding some of the outhouses, it looked like, but overall, I was really happy. It wasn't cold enough for there to be ice, but some of the snow had still sort of remained on the mountains, and I definitely recommend this. There are more places I'd like to explore in the park, but it's good to know what's available for EVs, and I'll definitely be back. So it was a wonderful experience.
We're about to head back. I hiked up to Angel's Landing. I didn't go up to the top, but it's about to rain, and I'm not going to deal with any of that. But yeah, the lodge here has a really cool EV charger. They don't really seem to ask anything for using it. So, just be conscious of that, and, try to buy something from the shop, or, I just had lunch at their lodge diner. So, they are a business as well. So we want to make sure that we're letting them know that we're thanking them for putting these electric vehicle chargers in. And, as I go out, one thing I wanted to bring up with Android Auto, and I'm guessing the same is true with Apple CarPlay, all of the maps. A shortcoming of having your maps in your phone is if you don't have a direct GPS connection. So right now I have the address for, the first DC fast charger in Las Vegas. So I think I can make it But as you can see, because there's no signal, I can't actually track the map, and I don't know exactly how far it is. I can sort of estimate, and I think it is going to be pretty close to, doing the math in my head, pretty close to about 170 or 180 miles. My minimum right now is 164, so that could be a little concerning. These are faster roads, but I think it's also a majority downhill, so I think I should be fine. But either way, it still would be nice to be able to track and know. And I'll be able to link up later on as I get closer to a phone signal, and then I'll be able to see from that point if I need to make like an emergency inconvenient stop in like St. George. And then the other thing is too, this trip isn't going to necessarily be representative of the time that the Bolt would be able to do this journey normally, because I'm more than likely going to hit Las Vegas traffic coming back. Now, it might have been a slow weekend, and because when I was looking at the traffic on the maps before I headed out on a Friday night, there wasn't a whole lot of traffic heading to Vegas. So if it's slow, then that will extend the range, but it will be misrepresentative of the time in which, the Bolt would be able to normally make this journey. But if there's no traffic, then we might get a good estimate of saying, okay, I'm leaving Zion at 1:30 local time, and we'll be able to know exactly how long. I'm gaining an hour, but it should be about 11 hours, 10 to 11 hours of driving if this goes the same way as the trip in. So, all right, well, we're about to head out. And one more thing before I leave. There is a constant draw right now of about 2 to 3 kilowatts. So, it's something to note that even when the battery is full, it's still accepting some charge. So leaving the park, I was actually quite impressed with the efficiency coming back out. Part of it is until you get to Interstate 15, the roads are a bit slower, but also you're losing elevation as you come down and out of the park. So I posted up another video specifically on this as I was talking through the efficiency that I was seeing and how the Bolt EV's range estimator on the left works, where it sort of adapts to your most recent driving. But you'll notice just all of the distance traveled, right? The actual energy usage displayed on the screen is extremely low. I believe at one point in time coming out of the park, it was over 12 miles per kilowatt hour, and you'll see that sort of reflected on the display. Now, it also turns out that my estimate to get to Las Vegas was a little bit on the high side. I stated 170 to 180 miles. It was probably closer to about 160, and by the time I get in, I had already used about 2/3 of the battery, which is to be expected because, again, once you get out of the park and out of the slower roads, even here, I'm doing 65 miles an hour, but once you get onto Interstate 15, the speed jumps up to 75. Now, some people had also noted, people from Utah had noted that Interstate 15 going north and south, once you get past that sort of section of road heading up into Salt Lake City, the speeds get up to about 80 or 85 miles an hour posted speed limit. So I hadn't gone up there, but one of the things that I was considering while driving this trip is, at that point in time, even stopping and spending the night in St. George, it wouldn't have been enough range waking up in the morning with a full battery to make it to Salt Lake City with any sort of reasonable speed or time. But
since this video has been posted, there's a DC fast charger that's been installed at the Maverick gas station in St. George, and in addition to that, there's another DC fast charger that was installed in Cedar City. So the route from St. George up to Salt Lake City is actually doable now in the Bolt EV. There are some elevation changes, but I don't know, and I don't know if you could actually maintain the posted speed limit of 80 to 85 miles an hour with both of those things in combination, especially not with some of the weather that you might expect to see in Utah. But it's just nice to know that these options are available. Another kind of curious thing about this route is you sort of see me winding through these caverns is valley here, this crag. I forget exactly what they called it, but you actually end up traveling through Arizona a little bit as well. Now, this is one of those issues that I do have with people who drive faster than the posted speed limit is really does depend on where you are. And what I've noticed in my travels is places like Arizona are very strict with their speed limits, and I know people say they just peg their speedometer at 80 or 85 miles an hour, but I wouldn't recommend that. One, because, well, it's not legal, but two, it's very easy to get yourself into trouble. But anyway, yeah, so I'm heading into Vegas now.
Well, I made it back to Las Vegas, Nevada with plenty of range to spare. I'm already actually about 14 minutes into the charge. I decided to go use the bathroom really quick because it had been a while, but sorry, let's clear that out of the way. So this is strange. It's actually charging at 101 amps, which is just weird to me. So anyway, I showed up with a relatively high state of charge, and it it immediately ramped up like it normally does. So it's on the display, it's reading 35 kilowatts, and I think they were saying another 40 minutes or so to 80%. So we'll see how that goes. I think the drive into Victorville shouldn't be as bad as coming the other way, but uh, I want to make sure I have a decent cushion going over the hill. It's getting to that time though when people might start exiting Las Vegas. So I didn't get caught in any traffic getting here. So I'm gonna have to see if it's if I can get out of here by 4:30 at the latest. I am on the southwestern side of town, so I'm ahead of a lot of people, but I still don't want to get stuck in that traffic. So, but for right now, this seems to be charging stable and exactly the way it's supposed to be. So it's a much better station. This is the first terrible Herbst that you get to when you're coming into Las Vegas from the California side. So yeah, I'll post up the address in the video, but yeah, this one seems to be a decent location, and the charger seems to be working. Hi guys, well, it's time to restart my charge.
At this point, the wind noise had gotten so bad that you couldn't really hear what I was saying or what was going on. So this was just a basic reactivation, and I was sort of discussing the differences in time between charging on a 100 amp charger and a 125 amp charger. Clearly, there would have been a time difference. I probably would have been leaving already, but overall, it wouldn't have made a huge difference in trip time.
I really only would have saved about 15 minutes of time had it been 125 amp fast charger. So here you go at 57. It's 363 volts, 101 amps, and I have 30-minute session left. And I'm gonna start it up. I know So it's saying 108 right now minimum, but I know I have 180 miles to go. And it looks like there are several accidents and slowdowns on the way back. Probably drunk people from Los Angeles returning from their Vegas trip. So that might slow things down, might let me get away with more. But there's no reason to tempt fate. I'm gonna try and get the minimum up to at least 160, I think, and then I'll head out. But it so far it's really only taken two sessions, even at the 100 amp, to get me the charge that I needed. I went a little overboard in Victorville, but that was unnecessary, I think. So yeah, I'll finish snacking. And the unfortunate part about this particular spot is it doesn't seem like there are a whole lot of places to eat, things to do. There is a pizza place over here, but that's about it. So, but anyway, and one more thing, coming from Zion seems to be fairly efficient. So 43.6 kilowatt hours to go about 179, 180 miles. So yeah, I made a pretty efficient run back, but I'll say that the conditions seem to be ideal. So okay, well, here we are about to leave. I just got through charging. Now, something that the fans came on to, I think, condition the battery a little bit, and they were drawing extra power from the charger, so they actually didn't impact the charge rate. So that's good. It was drawing extra amperage. So now on my minimum estimator right now, it says that I have 150 miles. It's a little less than I wanted. Where we're going, or the distance to get to Victorville, is 180 miles, so, or 178. So we're already a bit short. So we're already a bit short. We're about 30 under. So what I'm gonna need to do is drive a little carefully, not get too crazy with the cheese whiz, and we should be good.
So as I was leaving Vegas from this westernmost terrible Herbst charger, it did start raining again. Now you'll see this as I finally get to Victorville, but at this point in time I was pretty much unaware, or I had made a miscalculation in which route was less efficient. So I had been working under the assumption that driving from Victorville to Vegas was the more taxing route. But as it turns out, the route from Las Vegas back to Victorville is actually much more taxing. And part of it is you have a net elevation increase, and there's the final peak that you have to get over really is in Barstow, and that's about a 2,700 feet above sea level, which means it's about a 1,700 to almost 2,000 foot elevation increase from coming in from Vegas. So I was going the posted speed limit, so I knew enough to do that heading out, and that's mostly because, like I said, I had only charged to 80%, and I knew that was going to be cutting it fairly close. But at the same time, I wasn't going to go slow on this freeway. I could have gotten behind some of the semis and motorhomes, as you see, heading up over a mountain pass over the grade before you start to make the descent down toward Baker. But I didn't really see a need for that. I was pretty sure I was going to regain a lot of that efficiency on the downhill on the western side of the grade. And I did for the most part, and I need to pay better attention about when I got into Baker, because one of the things that I'm curious about now, knowing that the Charger is going in there, is whether it's possible for a Bolt EV to make it from St. George or Zion National Park all the way to Baker and bypass Las Vegas as a charging point. So I think it actually might be possible, but the weather conditions would probably have to be ideal, and again, you probably could only drive the posted speed limit. But again, we'll need to do a little bit more testing, and hopefully it doesn't really become much of an issue. My charging times and stops in Las Vegas have kind of turned me off to that as a travel stop. I really want to see our charging network move away from being metro based, if you will. I really don't want to see people having to stop in cities in order to recharge, because I think that makes for a poor travel experience. Even Tesla superchargers with 8, 10, 12 stalls per location get gummed up when you're in metropolitan areas, and it's just not good for long distance travel.
So it looks like I might have underestimated a little bit. I probably should have went up to 85% charge. So getting to Victorville now, I'm extremely low, probably below 5%. So I'm going to go ahead and charge up now, and we'll see. Yeah, so we won't be doing that again with the state of charge. All right. A combo. All right, so I was at 2% charge. All right. And yeah, so now it gives me how many miles it thought I had left. So that's actually more than I thought, because I was sort of babying it toward the end. Yeah, the thing I'd forgotten about is coming into Victorville from the other side. It's basically all uphill from Baker to Barstow, and from Barstow to um, Victorville. So yeah, I kept waiting for the hill to stop, but yeah, the draw was higher. So yeah, so it looks like the return trip is actually going to be the harder one from Vegas if you're going to Victorville. So just make sure, yeah, you're about 90% state of charge, and then you probably can't push it too much over the speed limit for right now. So all right, so it looks like we got about 33% charge in 30 minutes. So it looks like you can just pull it out and plug it right back in again. All right. And so for this, yeah, I'll see if I can get up to 80% state of charge. It'll probably be a little while. Um, but I mean, as long as you can make it to the charger, right, then this is always going to be faster than even staying for the additional 10, 15 minutes at, in Las Vegas with 100 amp. So it actually just ticked right up. So it looks like it was 34% in 30 minutes. So, all right. And 48 minutes to get to 80% charge. So, well, I'm about to head out of Victorville, heading back. I'm actually pretty much where I need to be on charge. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect and head out.
I was still using my old camera equipment at this point in time, so the main camera went down. I didn't have enough memory, and besides which, it was actually a nighttime drive back to Ventura. I did end up taking the 210 over to the 134 and then 101, so it was all freeway back, but with a net elevation decrease. It was fairly efficient, and I was easily able to make it back to Ventura without any problems.
All right, well that brings this road trip to a close. Now, when I left Zion, it was 2 o'clock, 2 p.m., but that was 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, so technically 1 p.m. So it took 10 hours to go 494 miles, so an average speed of just under 50 miles an hour. And I think that's, given the state of the infrastructure, that's probably what you should expect. I think the Bolt with better charging available would be able to do a lot better than that. And the average for the whole road trip, the average mileage and everything wasn't so bad. I mean, especially given how much of the driving was done at 70 to 75 miles an hour. But the lessons sort of learned from this, though, the Victorville to Las Vegas is doable, but that's the easier route. So the Las Vegas back to Victorville is actually a more difficult route. And either way, I would say to make sure it goes well, be up to 80, at least 85 to 90% state of charge when you leave Las Vegas to go to Victorville or vice versa. Yeah, that I would say use caution. So when Baker finally gets their fast charging, that'll make the trip will almost be too easy at that point. But that's even better in terms of having a sort of a safety net for the trips back and forth. But like I said, I barely made it back to Victorville. Yeah, I barely made it back to Victorville, and that was just sort of, I was watching the mile estimator and then watching how much distance I had left and just keeping track of the lay of the land and how much energy it was taking. So I slowed down. But that's the other thing too, is you'll probably still need to be close to the posted speed limit. So going too much faster than that, you're gonna sap more energy, and poor weather conditions could also affect it. So just be aware of that. So it's still not necessarily an easy trip, but it is very, very doable. So, all right, guys. Good night.